Today we're going to pay a visit to Belmont House and Gardens. They are located on the Froley Road at Froley, which is easily accessed off of the A251 Faversham Road. The gardens are open from April till September, every day of the week, and there is plenty of space to park. The entrance is via the courtyard, and normally you would pay at the tack room, but that's not open at the moment due to COVID, so there's an honesty box on the wall. The charge is £5 per person. A map is displayed at the entrance, but you can also pick up a map when you pay your entrance fee. We decided to go clockwise and started with a look at the grotto. Shell grottos are follies, but they were very popular in the 17th and 18th centuries, and they were supposed to mimic sea caves on nymphaeums. Across from the grotto, a gate in a wall leads into the walled garden. The walled garden was originally laid out in the 1790s, although it's undergone a lot of alterations over the last 2 centuries. The traditional design would have seen the garden divided up into 4 quarters with a pond in the middle. In the present day, long flower borders run along the walls and surround the lawn, and the borders are planted up with a mixture of perennials and annuals to try and provide a year-round interest in. The site of the old pond still exists, although it's planted up to make a display. There is, however, a small formal pond towards the back of the walled garden, although this isn't the original pond. Along the back wall, a large wisteria has been allowed to grow and intermingle with other plants. There are a number of ways to leave the walled garden. One is via a gate by the house that leads out to views over the estate. The grounds of the estate cover more than 3,000 acres and contain the house, gardens, cricket pitch, orchards and the surrounding farmland and woodland. In the middle of this shot is a ha-ha, which is a deep dry ditch designed to give the view of the garden an illusion of unbroken continuous rolling lawn and provides a boundary for grazing livestock. And on cue is a badger, or rather it's one of 15 willow creatures that make a willow trail around the gardens. There are many specimen trees on the estate which have managed to survive all the storms and hurricanes we've had in recent years, such as this copper beech tree. So this wall by the gate came out onto the estate. It's pretty bare now, but 100 years ago it had been planted up with all manner of fruit trees. Going back into the walled garden, there's another way out at the top end underneath the large wisteria. This gate leads to a bug hotel and an area where willow is being grown for staking the plants in the borders, and also it's next to the foundation to an old boiler house. Turning round and going back through the gate, follow the border along and eventually you'll come to another gate in the wall, and this leads out to the area called the Pinetum, which houses a collection of pines, cedars, redwoods and spruces. This leads to a small rockery, and then eventually you'll come across a signpost that points to the kitchen garden. We missed the main entrance and went to the working part of the garden, where the gardeners prepare their plants for selling, and there's cold frames and a sunken greenhouse. This door leads down into the greenhouse. Greenhouses were sunk as a way to try and preserve the heat, stop from losing it. Now at the moment it's being used to grow aeoniums, but back in the day this could have been a cucumber house, a melon house, or even a pineapple house. To try and get the cucumbers straight, they were grown in a glass tube. To heat the greenhouse, hot water is pumped from a boiler through cast iron pipes around the inside of the walls. This is the old boiler house, and obviously it's seen better days. This is the boiler house attached to the side of the greenhouse where the steps go down, and this is where the chimney would have come out. Lemons and limes are grown in facade tubs alongside the wall by the entrance into the kitchen garden. The kitchen garden's divided up into plots where there's vegetables, fruits, ornamentals, and there's arbours that have apple trees and pear trees trained over them. Pears are grown as cordons in a zigzag pattern, and they're underplanted with lavender. This is to attract pollinators. This is a lawned area at the top end of the kitchen garden. But once, in the Victorian times and Edwardian times, this would have all been planted up with fruit and vegetables. The kitchen garden was restored in 2001 over a period of 18 months, and it now contains a mixture of fruits, vegetables and flowers. The sundial that was just seen in the previous shot dates from when the house was constructed back in 1790. As well as the flowers and fruits, a lot of vegetables are still grown in the kitchen garden. Along the walls there's a mixture of cherries and apples and peaches, trained as espaliers and cordons, as they used to be back when it was a productive garden. There's a lot of small arbours that have hops grown over them, and hops were once a very important crop in Kent. And as well as apples and cherries, there's also a lot of figs. Again, there's lots of doors to go through and explore outer areas. This one leads through from the hop arbours to the area called the Mandala. The Mandala is a parterre garden that draws on Hindu and Buddhist art to reflect the family's Indian connections. It's planted with thyme, lavender and sansalina. It's probably Lavandula intermedia, and it certainly attracts the bees. So going back into the garden, there's some mulberry trees, and these ones are fruiting, which shows that they are very old, because it takes a long time for them to start to fruit. Originally introduced into Britain about 400 years ago to help found the silk industry. Also in the kitchen garden are the restored Victorian greenhouses, which unfortunately at the time of visiting was closed due to COVID. Just along from the greenhouses is the Coronation Walk, which was planted in 1937 to commemorate the coronation of George VI, and it is flanked on either side by yew hedges. So that's the end of the tour. Hope you enjoyed that. And remember, leave any comments below or send questions to Leslie. And I'll see you next week with another garden tour. Bye.